Where'd you go? Where'd you go, Bash? I need to start editing. Hey, y'all. Good morning to everybody. I don't know what happened to Bash. He was in the thing. Let me see if he's good. I don't know where he went. Give me just a second, y'all, because Bash was on stage, and somehow he got kicked off. Hey, Palmer. Let me see what happened to him. Mm. Y'all, I don't know what happened to Bash. I hit local recording, and I don't know if that kicked him. It shouldn't have, because all it was doing was saying to record to my MacBook, so for better. It's making you get an app. That might be my fault. I clicked to save the recording on my MacBook so that we get better sound, like high definition sound, and that might be my fault, Bash. Okay, y'all. While we wait on Bash to download the app, that is my fault, and I don't think I can switch it. Um, so while we wait on him to download the app, today we're going to be talking about Cain and Abel, the "Am I my brother's keeper" drama. And if many of you were on live last night, then I think this is a good segue to this conversation from the live that we had last night and discussing like uh, the things that are in Cain and Abel that we don't see that really speaks volumes. But I want to wait until Bash comes back. I appreciate y'all's patience. How many of y'all were on live like early this morning? The last conversation that we had on live um, this morning. You said I fell asleep in the middle. So glad you. Oh, thank you, Rich Wagner. I'm happy to have you here. Hey, Christina. Hey, TT, Nancy, T Mac, Limitless, and with Tay, Ricky J. Hey, Fee. Somebody check up on Bash. Hold on. Hey, Dahlia. Oh no, leave it to me to try to do. Let me see if I can change the settings so he don't have to do that. Let's see. Oh no, there he is. Okay, there you go.
Sorry about that. They made me get a whole app and sign in again and change passwords and the whole nine. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I think that was actually my fault because I chose a different setting this time. Because remember last time he kept freezing me.
Oh yeah, yeah. I do
So
remember that.
yeah. So well, you're back. I was
I'm
telling
back.
them. I was telling them that we're going to talk about Cain and Abel today, and the and my brother's keeper part of the story, and other things that are in the story but not necessarily in the story.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so we're just gonna go ahead. Do you want to say anything to the people?
No, I just sorry I'm running late. I apologize about that. I had to get this app or whatever, so I'm sorry for popping in late. As soon as you hit the button, it was just like boom, kick me out.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah, my bad.
But yeah, let's get started.
Ready? Oh God, this thing is gonna start. It's gonna start doing the thing again.
It's freezing on you already?
It's already freezing.
Yeah.
StreamYard is not gonna be our friend. Let's
That's
see.
crazy.
Yeah.
So it doesn't want to let you use the screen share option or whatever.
I'm not even trying to screen share right now. It's like, uh, hold on. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't know what the hell is going on. Okay. I'm just gonna read chapter 4 and maybe not screen share.
Okay.
All right. So in Adam and Eve, I mean, Adam knew Eve, his wife. So this is the first time that they are together after they got kicked out of that illustrious paradise of a garden. You tripped me out last night when you were like, "Don't nobody care
Don't nobody.
if they
Man,
could
that
eat
made me
fruit."
so mad, man. Oh my God, that made me so mad.
He was like, "Who gives a fuck if they can eat fruit inside or outside of the garden?" But the real question is, could they do inside the garden? That's the real
Right,
question.
right. But the thing about not to pivot, but the thing about those kinds of people, and I watched it happen two times last night, at least two people, because and actually three people, because they couldn't engage with the conversation that was there. Because they couldn't engage with the because Ramon was very much like that. Ramon couldn't engage in the conversation. Ramon was just like, okay, you said that word. I'm gonna apologize for Christian behavior, and then I'm gonna say this word. But that's not how conversations go, right?
Yeah.
And I've noticed that's how we end up. That's how the conversation take this long ass rabbit hole, and then you end up talking about like it's normally gonna end up somewhere around Genesis chapter 1. But that's how it happens. It's
It,
because
it,
that, huh? What's that?
I was gonna ask, do you think that that's because, like, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. I was gonna ask, do you think Genesis chapter one, like Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2 and 3, is where they always end up? Like, do you think that as far as they read the book and that's why, and they're like, this is it,
Honest to
this is
God,
the
that's
God.
exactly what I was gonna say. That's exactly what I was gonna say. That's about as far as they read. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
But let's go to
I agree.
Genesis 4 today, guys. We're gonna move, push it just one block.
I agree though. Like that's why I be trying to like not be so like bam bam bam, you know.
Yeah.
Um let's see what's going on. Hold on.
Okay.
Mm, okay. But yeah, I be trying to meet them where they are when it comes to that. So um yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's why I be doing that. But yeah, so and Adam knew Eve, his wife. So this is the first time that they were together outside of the garden. And do you think that there's any significance in that? Like, with them as soon as he brought. If this is my question, if this specific group of humans purpose of being created was to be fruitful and multiply, um did they do did basically they didn't inside the garden.
Yeah,
So that kind of says that that was not their purpose.
that was not that person. I don't think that the group in Genesis 1, I believe, was their job was to be fruitful and multiply. Group in Genesis 2, their job was just to dress and keep the garden.
So they were
Right?
created to be laborers.
They created to be laborers, right? Dress and keep the garden, be obedient, right? Which would kind of talk about the difference between just basic, um, like just basic thought process between the Yahwist and the Elohist. Just basic thought process. You know, we often read in the prophets where they talk about, hey, you're supposed to do this, and this is the feast, and you're supposed to do this, and again, line upon line, precept, precept, do this, don't do that, do this, right? Very, very Elohist, very Yahwist priestly type writings, where
Mm.
that you're 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 designed to be a servant, versus the Elohist. Deuteronomy's writings are kind of wild too, but versus the Elohist writings, which are more like, hey man, figure out how to love mankind. Whatever you're doing, figure out how to love mankind. They're not that simple, but I'm just to kind of simplify it. On the one hand, you got people who are very just like, just follow the rules, you know, versus like, eh, just figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah. And it says, and she conceived and bare Cain and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she again bare his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. So, okay, it identifies Cain, the ground, right? As someone who
You chopped up
cultivates the
right there.
ground,
Say
the
this
same
this
thing.
one more time.
Basically, Cain took after his father. It identifies Cain as a tiller of the ground,
Yep.
right? Basically, he took after his dad.
Yep.
Adam was created for that, but Abel, the announcement of his part, you see something different. Like you start to see that his purpose is to keep the animals,
Mm-hmm.
right? And is there a significance that Cain's purpose was to be the keeper of the sheep when there's
I didn't even
multiple
hear you.
animals at that time, right? Like he's just the keeper of the sheep. Oh,
Okay. Okay. One of the things that I think is noticeable in that particular piece is one, the names, right? Cain, which means to acquire, to get. Um, and she names him, oh, I have gotten a man, even from Yahweh.
mm.
Um, the Abel's name just means literally what it means. It means to sigh, a deep breath, almost like I'm tired of doing this kind of thing, right? Abel was uh, kind of the extra. I don't know how to say this, right? Like he's kind of the extra. He wasn't really like he wasn't the point, right? Again,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, he wasn't the point. And again, you said it. He took after his daddy in his purpose, in his vocation, whereas an Abel did not. You run into this kind of situation. You'll see this foreshadowing again in Jacob and Esau.
so I thought Cain's name meant to vain and nothingness. Like
Abel,
and I mean Abel's name meant nothingness,
yeah,
right?
or
And
it means to
in
sigh
vain.
or vanity, yeah, nothingness.
Hmm. Yeah,
They say
which
you
I
breaking
think
up,
is
my love.
significant. Can is this is this better?
I mean, I hear you okay right now, but you
Uh,
were breaking up a minute ago.
Oh, okay. I was saying that, yeah, it's like in my my research, I saw that Abel's name meant nothingness, and so I was asking, like, is that significant to the story? Is it significant to like the order that he was birthed?
I
Like
don't know.
when
I don't
he,
know if it had to do a birth order, but could I guess it could? Yeah, I guess it could. If the firstborn child was considered the child of promise, right?
Mhm.
Um, there are people who translate Genesis 3:15, where it says, "And your desire shall be towards your husband." There are
Mhm.
people who translate that scripture as your where it says, oh my God, in pain you shall bring forth, blah, 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 blah. There are
Mhm.
people who translate that B portion as desiring a man to rule, right? And so they link that B portion to that A portion, basically saying that she was looking for a redeemer, one to come and like fix this. That Adam wasn't gonna fix it, but she was gonna birth the one that was. And she thought that Cain was that one, which is why she says, I've gotten the boy.
Oh wow.
And, so then Abel is just like, it don't really matter. I got the boy.
You said Abel was Abel? Oh, okay, I get it. And that's why she named him Nothingness because
Yeah.
she had K. Okay. And then all right. Um so okay. And so when after King dies and we don't get to know who he is anymore, that would signify that he really was nothing.
Yeah, but then you lost Cain, then you go find Seth. Well, we'll read to that point. But you ever looked at what Seth means?
Um God, I can't, yeah, I have, and I can't think of it right now, but yeah.
Basically, just means a substitution.
Yeah.
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 So that
Substitution for both Cain and Abel though, right?
yeah, basically.
And not just, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Um all right, so let's get on to the next one. I deleted some stuff off of my computer, so hopefully that will work. All right, so in process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord. Can you hear me?
I can't.
You can't.
I can't.
Oh, okay. Tell me when you want me to stop. Okay,
Just
and
keep going.
eh, okay, and Abel he also brought of the first of the flock and of the fat thereof, and the Lord had respected to Abel and unto his offering. So, okay, so on live, like people always ask us, how did Cain and Abel know to start giving offerings to God? Like, was it Adam and Eve who taught them, or was it God who taught them this? Because we can see here in just a second where God just be like, I don't like yours, but I like his.
Hmm. Hmm. If you'll notice these two different kinds of offering, and this whole story kind of leans more towards people not gaining knowledge.
Hmm.
Okay, it's almost the inverse of the Sumerian story, right? Right. It's almost the inverse. Like one thing we know in this story is God don't want them to gain knowledge. And so
Hmm.
he prefers the animal herder to the horticulturalist, the farmer, right? The person, the people who are building in societies. Imagine there are two kinds of societies here, or these people
Hmm.
represent two sides. There is one culture where they're sitting still, they are growing things, right? They're creating systems of growth. Like they are, if there's a word I'm looking for, farmers. I mean, there's another word I'm looking for, but they're farmers, right? Um, then there's another culture of animal herders, right? They travel, right? They move wherever the herd goes. Israel is a herd culture, right? They did not like uh, farmer cultures, right? Think about when they leave Egypt, they walk back through a bunch of, well, I mean, in the story, um, in the conquest story. They walk back through all of these like cultivator places, right? They're walking back through places where they have cultivation, and then here they come with their flocks and their herds. Abraham had his flocks and his herds, like right. So they were a nomadic group of people who really thought that that was the way to live, right? To just be simple and nomadic, and y'all were doing too much, yeah, right? Just God prefers life this way, right? Just don't look at them people over there and their cultivation and right blah blah. Keep in mind it took Israel a while to start developing a language and a written language. It's gonna take a longer time because you're on the move, right? Like you're nomadic people. So this is kind of a throwback to that, right? That oh man, no, God prefers the herders to the big city folk,
Mm,
right? He prefers
okay.
country nomadic folk to the big city folk. Yeah,
Okay. That makes sense.
yeah.
All right. Now it was something else that I was reading from the rabbis is that they said to pay attention. I don't know if it does it in the King James, but they like when they said to pay attention to the order that the names are mentioned. I did not noticed that the orders were changed up, but they said that the order switches up
Which order?
the names
Okay.
of Cain and Abel. I guess I've not noticed that. Like, but I don't know if it does it in the Hebrew text, but they said that the order of the names was switched up on purpose. But I've not noticed that in the
Okay.
King James Bible. Um, but it says that it's to give the reader um, like this ambiguous impression that that Abel does it is not necessarily important, and it's to make the reader constantly wonder who is Cain. Who is Abel?
Okay. Okay.
I really find out, and honestly, I'm not sure if they're saying that it switches up with that, like when the rest of the Bible. But I've never heard Abel and Cain. It's always been Cain and
Me
Abel.
either. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. I've never heard that, but let's look out for it.
but yeah, that's why I said, but look out for it. Tell me why the freaking Bible gave it. Okay, there it goes back. All right. So uh, okay, and Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of the flock and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering, but unto Cain, well, I guess it is switching up because there is Abel's offerings first, but unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect, and Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. Why?
Okay.
I guess why didn't he have respect? This is where we get into the um, and I guess you said like this is where they show that God cares more about the herders than the horticulturalists.
Hmm.
Okay. And the Lord said unto Cain, why art thou wroth, and why is thy countenance fallen? To me, it just feels like he's just like picking at it because he knows why. He knows what he did. Like he knows
Hmm.
on purpose that he didn't show any respect to Cain's offering. And then here you have two humans who are, the second set of humans on earth. Their parents were kicked out from, in front of you. Um, we don't know who taught them how to bring these offerings to you, right?
Right.
Obviously, whatever you told their parents, you didn't tell them the right thing because when they did bring you the first fruits of whatever it is that they do, you just said, "I like kids, I don't like kids." You like
Right.
you put evil first. Like I think this is the switch up, right? He just all of a sudden respects Abel's the youngest son first, and then doesn't respect the oldest son, and doesn't say why. He's
Hmm.
like, if you do well, you like why? Like why ask him why you're mad, why your countenance fell when first off you're God and you're all knowing.
Hmm.
You know why. It's like you know how I don't know. Do you have nieces and nephews?
I do.
Or you do, but your baby is just a baby, right? Or do
I
you
mean, I got
not
an older
just a
niece. I
baby?
got an older niece.
I said just baby. Okay. So have you ever, when they were toddlers, like have you ever played around with them and kind of like pushed them, and then they go stop, and you go, "What like, have you ever done it?
Say that last part. You broke it right at
Uh,
the end, right after you said stop. What did you say?
like, have you ever like been playing with like your nieces and nephews and you might like push them back, and then they be like, "Stop!" Like, and then you be like, "What you mad for?" Like play,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So like honestly, this feels like that. Like God builds this contention between these two brothers because He knows I was the first one to come with the fruits, right?
Yes, yes.
Um, it feels like that, like pushing Cain and then saying, "What you mad for?"
Well, this is gonna build up. You ever notice how like later on you'll hear people say this now that Israel was being attacked, and so they had to go to war, and they were being attacked, and
Mhm.
you ever heard people say that,
Yeah, yeah.
and you be thinking to yourself, when were they attacked?
Mhm.
This is the beginning of this setup, and you'll see what I mean. Just keep reading.
Okay. And the Lord said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth, and why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted. And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door. And unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him.
All right, now notice. Wait, are you still talking?
Mm-mm.
Okay, okay. Notice that's that same sentence from Genesis 3:15, right? Your desire shall be towards it, and it shall rule over you. Your desire
Mhm.
shall be towards man, shall rule over you. All right. This is this setup of let's keep reading. I'll come back to this, but just remember we've heard this sentence before. Good.
Yeah, but I think it's kind of funny that he doesn't say who he's talking about at that moment.
Right.
Like it, right? Like he says, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, he doesn't say, "Oh, I'm telling you that uh you shall rule." Like Abel shall be, Abel shall serve you,
Mm-hmm.
and it's you shall rule over Abel if you do well.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That again, that sounds like the J-Path, uh, I mean Shem Ham story, brothers
Mm-hmm.
being pit against each other, right? Jacob, right? So here it is. This is the beginning. This is God pitting two brothers against each other. Your brother, you're gonna rule over your brother if you do well. Why is your countenance falling? Like, what is he
Mm-hmm.
preparing Cain for? You know,
What are you about to do?
that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I said, like, think, like he's pushing him, and then he's like, "What you mad for?" Like he knows the whole time. He knows
Mm-hmm.
the whole time why he's mad. Like that, I don't know. And Cain talked with Abel his brother. And it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him. Like, what was this conversation? Have you ever read in the hold on, not yet, but there is a conversation in the Midrash that Cain has with God after this, and Cain talks straight up shit to God.
I can imagine. I've never read it, but I can imagine.
Yeah. But here you have this conversation where Cain talked with Abel, and we don't know what they talked about.
Nope.
We don't know what they said,
Nope.
right?
No idea.
Whatever was said, it pissed Cain off enough that made Cain murder his brother.
Yeah. Or yeah. Yeah. That's what we presume now.
Yeah. Um. Well, like, what are your thoughts on why he killed him?
I think this is the setup for the those people are bad,
What people?
right? The city folk, the agriculturalists, they're bad people. They attack herders like us for no reason. All we're doing is just doing our thing, offering to God. They don't like us. They
Wait,
are
you
bad.
think Abel represents Israel?
Hmm.
The one that's considered to be vain and nothing?
Hmm. Do you know, they say about themselves all the time? We're the worst. We are the downtrodden. We are the smallest, the least. We are. That's why God chose us, because we're so small, because we're nothing.
Okay, that's interesting.
Mm,
Okay.
yeah.
Let's see. And he said, "What hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me unto the ground." So this also still doesn't make any sense because he's saying, he's asking Cain, "What did you do?" And the way I know you did something is because of your brother's blood crying from the ground.
Mm.
But again, he's all knowing, so it shouldn't even be the fact that the voice that the blood is crying from the ground, right? Because he's God, he's all knowing, he's everywhere at one
Well,
time.
at this point in Bible history, God is not all knowing. God is not omnipresent. God is not omni anything. He's coming to visit. He's learning things. He's testing things out. He doesn't know everything.
Mhm.
We superimpose that from later, like once the deities have conflated and he's becoming El Elyon and now he knows everything. But at this point in the writing, God is not all knowing. He's not all powerful. He's not all knowing. He's not all good. He's not all anything. He's just a character who's kind of he's picked a certain group of people that he like. He does uh right like otherwise it does seem a bit this whole story and most of the stories seem a bit like why is an all-knowing God asking where are you, or why is an all-knowing God asking why are you mad, or why is an all-knowing God asking what did you do, or why? That's because he's not all-knowing. He just doesn't know.
Mm.
He just doesn't know. He knows some things. He has like a bit of like a super. He can hear blood cry, I guess, but like he's definitely not all knowing.
I
It's
wonder
definitely not.
where, yeah, I wonder where they got the rest of this from. Like the Dead Sea Scrolls only go up to verse 10.
Mm,
So it makes me wonder like when the rest of this part was well, I know it was in between the 6th and 10th century, but like I don't know, the oldest copy that we have of it is up to verse 10.
mm-hmm. And
So,
the 400 years is a long time to fiddle with a story,
mm,
right? It's and again you looking at you're more than looking at, I mean, you're looking at redactions of versions of stories, so it's hard to really pin down when this happened, right? Like this would have been a redaction and but
yeah, that's what I'm trying
somewhere
to
in
figure
that
like
400
what
years.
was left because you can kind of tell that something's missing, right?
Yeah,
That there are some omissions here because we don't know the conversation that happened with Cain and Abel, right? Like, why was that redacted?
right.
Like why was that conversation removed? So when thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. So he gets the same punishment as his father.
Mm,
Again, this why curse the ground again if the ground is already cursed? When he cursed the ground for Adam, according to Christian theology, the ground is cursed for everybody. Like that is man's punishment because of what Adam did inside the garden. Why is this ground being cursed again for Cain's sake?
you said that right. For in Christian theology, that's not necessarily what the Bible teaches. That's what Christians teach about, right?
Well, that's like the fall of man, right?
Yeah,
That was man's curse. Was that the ground would be cursed, and it literally says the ground is cursed because of you. Like
your
it,
sake,
it says that.
your sake, not mankind's sake. The Christians take that to mean, oh, it's cursed for everybody. That's not what it
No,
says.
the standard revised updated version says because of you.
Yeah, because of you.
Mhm.
Christians take that to mean for everybody, but it says because of you,
Well, then
one
that's
person.
if that's the case, then he just cursed one man and then cursed all women, every woman after Eve. Why?
Yeah,
Like then then that means that only Adam was supposed to be over Eve, and not all men supposed to be over all women.
yes.
That doesn't make sense. Like why
It
he would
doesn't.
only curse Adam and then curse all women after Eve, but not all men after Adam. And then like why is it that all men sweat by the sweat of their brow if it's not for all men?
Not all men live by the sweat of their brow. Not all men live by the sweat of their brow.
Yeah, but I
That
mean that's like all women don't have babies either.
all
But
women
you know
don't
what I'm
have
saying?
babies either.
Yeah, but the implication of the curse is what I'm saying. Like it was supposed to be like for humankind, like right,
That's
everybody
that's
died because
that's
of
the
that.
theological version of that, but that's not what it says. That's not what it says. And people are gonna play with that in a trillion different ways. But that's not what that says. That thing says curses the ground for your sake because of you. You're gonna have to sweat from your brow. It didn't say all human beings are gonna sweat from their brow. Don't say that. That's what we take from it, but that's not the what am I saying? The verbatim. That's not what it
Mhm.
says. And people play with that curse in a bunch of different ways. But you're right. Think about this. It would not make sense for God to curse the ground for Cain's sake if the ground's already cursed.
So why does he say after he floods the earth, he says, "I'll never curse the ground again for man's sake"? Like so, like he promises to never curse the ground again,
Uh-huh.
as if that first curse was lifted in the flood.
Which first curse? Adam's first curse or Cain's curse?
Whichever, I don't know. That's why I'm saying like the fact like I asked this question on live last week and I kept asking the Christians like I had a question that they could choose was did the first curse did God forgive the first curse when he in the flood, right? Like of the ground.
Uh-huh.
Did the flood wash away the first curse of the ground? Because
Uh-huh.
in Genesis 8:21, he promises to never flood the earth. Then I asked them why did he have to curse the ground again when Cain did what he did, right? Because he had already cursed the ground. Now I know in the standard revised updated version, it says because of you the ground is cursed. Like that's
Uh-huh.
how it reads. Um
Uh-huh.
and so I've never heard that the curse was only for Adam and not supposed to be for every man. That's a new one on me because
What
like I
is
said
it?
it wouldn't
What
make sense for the curse to be for every woman and the seed of every woman. I mean the for the woman to bear pains in childbirth and then the man for her to be her purpose to be for the man if the man's curse was only just for Adam,
well
like
then
then
explain this is why I'm asking then why if the ground is already cursed, then why is God cursing the ground?
exactly
If the
that's
ground
because but he does it again in the rest of the book. He says he's never going to do it again, and then he keeps doing it
right.
even after that.
But think about what I'm saying. If God just cursed the ground for good just a few days ago, right?
Mhm.
Just a couple pages ago, God just cursed the ground for good for everybody. Then why is God cursing the ground right here?
I know that was the question that I asked last week online,
What, what
but
I'm
if we're
what I'm
saying that
saying
he
to the
didn't,
issue is
no,
that, that
yeah, I get it.
okay, okay.
What
Yeah,
what
he
what I'm
didn't
saying
curse the
is
ground for everybody.
yeah, what I'm saying is if he didn't, then what he did in the garden it was more sexist with him
Ooh,
loading a generational curse on women and not men. That
right,
means that men didn't get a generational curse.
right. Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
And
That's
they
a new
didn't.
one. I've never heard that.
They didn't.
Oh, that's interesting. I've never heard that.
Yeah, they didn't. We can read it as if they. Well, let me say it this way. Keep this in mind. These are uh, several redacted stories sitting beside each other, right? That they don't flow in like a. Oh, remember this? This is always going to be true. They're inconsistent. Certain
Yeah, I
parts of the
know.
story speak louder here. Certain parts of the story speak louder there. So sometimes it's hard to like look because
No, I
it
know.
would.
Like from a skeptic's point of view, like because you already know I'm looking at this from a biblical critic point of view, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So yeah, I'm not looking to get meaning from it like that, right? So,
yes.
but just pointing out the fact that the curse from that the curse in Christian theology and the way the translation reads to me is that the ground was cursed for man's sake. Man no longer can just eat and be taken care of by God. They now have to work by the sweat of their brow. Because if you remember us talking in like in the very first uh episode, I said it to me. It seems like a man was who wrote this was at that point already had the whip cracked on him. He
Hmm.
doesn't like the way things are because it doesn't make sense for somebody to say, "Oh, you're gonna sweat by the sweat of your brow," and that's the curse for men. And it's like, well, did they sweat when they were in the garden? Like what really changed when they left outside the garden because Adam was the first man. Who cracked the whip on Adam? Who did he have to clock into? Right. And so I think the writer broke the fourth wall there and like kind of let their emotions their what they were feeling about how the world was at that moment in time when they were writing it. Right.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Oh,
so with that thought, it's that the curse was for all men, and this man was writing about why all men had to, work by the sweat of their brow, why they had the whip cracked on them. You see what I'm saying?
yes, yes, but that's not going to hold consistency here because these are redacted stories. So that's why I'm saying keep that in mind that these pieces are connected, but not necessarily uh, chronologically consistent, right?
Mhm.
If how am I trying to say this? If the ground is already cursed for all of mankind, all boys, right? Every boy is going to have to do this, right? Well, then it would make no sense. It would make no sense at all for Cain's curse to be the curse to ground. Ground already cursed.
I agree,
I had
100%.
added in new information. But if we're looking at this as redactions of stories,
Right.
right? If we're looking at this as redactions of stories, then it how am I trying to say this? That the Cain and Abel story is not as related to the Adam and Eve story as this redaction would make it seem. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, they were written at different times and most likely by different authors, right?
By different authors, and not just the authors, there are different traditions, right? So this Cain and Abel story could exist in, let's just say, four different versions, right? So
Mhm.
four different versions of this Cain and Abel story, and they look at it in different ways. There's a like kind of like you talk about the Abraham and Isaac story, right? There is a tradition that says, oh no, he killed that man,
Mhm.
and Sarah left because he killed that man, right?
Mhm.
There's another tradition that says, no, he didn't. An angel came, right? Those are two separate traditions about the exact same story, right?
Right.
Now, one of them made it into the Bible, but you can imagine even in the one that made it into the Bible, there could be pieces of this tradition in there and that tradition in there,
Mhm.
right? Because it's a redaction,
Mhm.
right? Same thing is true in pretty much all of the Torah. You're, and this makes itself way more apparent in the flood story. It starts to kind of fall off the rails in the flood story. So when we get there, I think it'll be more apparent. But just know that these stories they don't necessarily carry continuity.
No, yeah, I know. I'm just yeah, no, I know that, right? Like
Yeah,
this, I'm just looking at it from like a biblical, like from a skeptic's point of view, and just pointing out the inconsistencies.
yeah,
Because a believer does not look at they don't look at the stories that way, right? Like just
right,
things that would make them think and say, wait, why is the ground being cursed,
right.
right?
Well, I'm looking at it more of as a textual critic, right? To say, hey, this is why you're reading this way, right? Not. I'm suspending my belief in the story for a second, right? But
Mhm.
like textually speaking, hey, this is why you're going to read this way. Not like does it uh, not in the story like, hey, what was God doing? I don't
Mhm.
think. Of course, I'm not. I don't think you saying that God was doing this either, and I'm not saying God did any of this. I'm saying, hey, from a textual criticism, hey, this is why you're reading this way. This is why this is discontinued from this. This is why that idea that the ground was cursed didn't carry over to this,
Mhm.
right? Because this has a completely different rhetorical goal. This is not some chronological order story that's just written from one perspective or one
Right.
author, right?
Mhm. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. Yeah. Let's see. Uh, let's- what verse did we leave off of?
Ooh, God, I don't know. Maybe six, something, six, seven.
And the Lord said, I know. I can't remember.
Uh, we
Oh,
had
okay.
we
Yeah,
had,
verse 7. No, verse 8. We were on
Wait,
verse 8. He just killed
okay.
his brother. Um, and the Lord said unto Cain, where is Abel, thy brother? So it is changing their names in order. And he said, I know, sorry, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, what hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. And now art thou cursed from the ground, which have, oh, we read on this, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shall be in the earth. And Cain said unto the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. It's crazy. Like for the first life, the first human life taken, the only punishment that the God gives is the ground being cursed for you. You're going to be a fugitive and a vagabond. Like, um, no harsher punishment. If the God was so upset about the sin of disobeying him in the garden and acquiring knowledge of what's good and what's evil. Here you have a human, your creation, taking the life of another creation. Obviously, Abel, you have some love for Abel.
Hmm.
The punishment doesn't necessarily fit the crime, but here you have Cain saying, "My punishment is greater than I can bear," and the punishment is that it's going to be hard for me to till the ground, and I'm getting kicked out of your presence
I'm
again.
getting kicked out of prison. Right, right.
Yeah,
This is
the same punishment for eating the
this,
fruit.
it, what? Okay, this is basically a new Adam and Eve story,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? It's basically a new Adam and Eve story, but because basically I have to explain why a certain group of people are in existence. Right. I'm trying to.
Mm,
This is an etiology story. Where when we're gonna read, Cain moves on to somewhere and he starts fathering people.
mm,
These folk, and specifically they start doing metallurgy. They start doing
mm.
metal work. We're gonna read in a second, but specifically, Cain's children they go over here, then they start doing metal work. And remember when we read over in Judges that Yahweh was with Judah, but they came down into the valley and they couldn't overtake a certain group of people because they had metal work.
Yeah, but remember. So when we ask the question, how did Cain's lineage survive the flood? Most people, like the Kenites, right? And from my understanding, the Kenites, the Kenites, are the lineage of Cain, right?
Hmm.
Not the Canaanites,
Not the
but
Canaanites. The Canaanites.
yeah, the Kenites.
Hmm.
But Christian theology does not believe that the Kenites are, that's a Jewish tradition, that the Kenites are the lineage of Cain. But if that is the case, how did they survive the flood? Is the question that we would have to answer. Like when we look at this from the lens of Christian theology, right?
Hmm.
So if that is the case, that this is a story that talks about why a certain group of people exist, how did that certain group of people survive the flood? It's going to
Well,
be my next question.
that's going to be a really good question, and just know the authors of this book are not concerned with those details, and you go see how unconcerned with them they are. They don't care. They don't care. That these are just. It's no different than when I like last night when I was talking to Buddy, and I was saying, "Hey, you're saying that the sin nature is sin, right?" And he said, "Yes." And then and just a minute later he'll go, "No, sin nature is not sin." Right? He's using this part of the story for one rhetorical goal, this part of the story for another rhetorical goal, and they even though they contradict, he doesn't care. It doesn't have to make any sense in the middle. He's just trying to say this and
Mhm.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think they can't, like, they honestly, they can't help it because it's the
yeah.
way that the book is written, is the way that it's also taught, right? So
Hmm.
they can't help to kinda contradict themselves because the text contradicts, the stories contradict,
Right.
and then the stories constantly switch, and I think, like, I am seeing the switch up on the order of names. Are you seeing it?
Uh,
Where it
it
mentions
doesn't seem
Abel, it'll
intentional,
say
but
Abel, then it'll say Cain.
I can see that. I can see that. I wouldn't
Yeah.
have paid attention to it though. It didn't seem like I can see that. Let me say it that way. I can see that.
Yeah. So, like, from a rabbinic, uh perspective, they believe that that's done on purpose.
I can see that.
Yeah. And then that what they say is that you arrive at when you ask yourself the question or like Abel has already I mean Cain has already asked, am I my brother's keeper? The consistent switch up from the significance of Cain to the nothingness of Abel, and then you eventually get to who is Abel. Abel no longer exists; he vanishes into the nothingness. Um, and the not so drastic punishment of murdering Abel, like the kind of you just get the same punishment as your father. It when we see society today and the lack of empathy,
Hmm.
um, they say that this is representative of that.
Hmm. And you'll see a lot of going back to what I was saying about that earlier. You'll see a lot of questions like that. Yahweh, how long are you going to bless the wicked? Right? When
Mm,
us poor righteous folk are out here being slaughtered every day, how long are you gonna put up with the wicked? Right? You're strengthening their hands. Right? And us little poor old innocent folk over here, all we trying to do is the right thing. We are bringing our offerings. We're bringing. How long are you gonna put up with the wicked? Right.
mm,
This is the setup for why evil people win. Right. But they or why they have perpetuated in the earth. Basically, I guess I shouldn't say that they win, but why they perpetuate in the earth. Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid. How? Okay, back to like okay, so at this point
He's not omnipresent.
not omnipresent, but from a Christian perspective, Christians do believe that Yahweh is omnipresent. When you are thinking about this, that is one thing to think about. Like
Mm-hmm.
how is Cain being driven out from the face of God or hid from God? But I think
It's
again,
his
this is that
spiritual face.
separation, the spiritual, right?
He got a
That's what I was
spiritual
going to say.
face.
Yeah, like that separation from God again. So
Yeah.
the punishment for murder is being separated from God. And here is the
Mm-hmm.
hell again, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is
Mm-hmm.
the hell, been separated from God. You can kill
Mm-hmm.
anybody, just be separated from God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth, and it shall come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me. Like he literally speaks an extra curse on himself here. Like, why? What the
Mm-hmm.
fuck for? Like he literally says, I okay, I'm gonna be a fugitive and a vagabond, and everybody that finds me gonna slay me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why did he like add extra that why he give himself an extra 10 years?
Also, just think about the fact. Also, just think about the fact that that man just said that people was gonna find him.
Yeah.
Like, right. So, Cain clearly thought that there were other people on the planet.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right. Cain knew there was some other folk out here. Well, what are these folk? Who are these folk?
Yeah. I think again, I think for me this feels like the writer breaking the fourth. Like they
Yeah.
couldn't, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um
Who are these people? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, if this story were chronologically consistent, then there's nobody else here.
mhm,
There's nobody else on the planet. Adam had two boys. Adam and Eve had two boys, and now they're down to one boy.
mhm,
But Cain already knows that there is a world full of people that are going to do him harm,
mhm.
and they're already outside of the garden. He knows that there is a world full of people that can harm him. Well, where did those people come from? Right? When did those people show up?
Mhm. I think too, like taking into consideration that, you know, there was a whole team of so-called scholars at that time who were given, you know, different books and their job was to make it look like a chronological
Hmm.
story being told. Like King James created this fake chronological timeline that the Jewish Bible doesn't have,
Hmm.
right?
And if you go back further than this, like you have things like Jasher and all those little like what do you call them, supplementary books,
Mhm,
that kind of help fill in all these holes that are left from the initial redaction of the Torah, which happened in like the 300-400 CEs, right? So I said CE, that's not true. BCE. I'm my bad, right? So this initial redaction that's going on where we're taking these source stories, right? We're taking all these source stories and we're trying to make a one universal book of the law, right?
Right. Hmm.
Right. So
And then
you
with an agenda on top of that, like
with an agenda, right?
yeah,
It's specifically with a Yahweh's agenda by this point, but
yeah,
yeah, but with an agenda, right? So you got all these source stories that people are trying to redact and create this one. Okay, here is the narrative, but again, the redaction is going to show its holes, and here's one of them, right? All of a sudden, you got Cain, who is technically there should only be three people living right now, right? Even though we're
hmm,
not even hearing from Adam and Eve, we would assume, I guess, that they're still alive. But there should only
hmm,
be three people alive. Should be Adam, Eve, and Cain,
hmm,
right? But there are not three people alive. Cain is already well aware that if I leave here, I'm going to run into a bunch of other people, right? So
right,
there is a world full of folk in Cain's mind,
hmm.
right? And that those people are going to notice that he's not like them. Yeah, I can't hear you. Say
And
what
the
is that?
Lord said unto him, therefore, can you hear me now?
I hear you now.
Okay. And the Lord said unto him, therefore, whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him seven. Here's the first time that we see the seven, the seven thing, in the text. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. What was the mark? Like I've heard, the mark was that Cain's lineage doesn't grow beards. And other like other text, that have a Cain, story, that the lineage was that his skin was lightened a little bit, and or that his lineage doesn't grow beards. Like, what have you heard that the mark was?
I've heard that it was black people. I've heard that it was the lack of beards. I've heard that it was lighter people. I've heard this in so many different ways. I can't even put it into words. I've heard this as anything to separate him from other human beings. I do not know the answer to that, but I've heard a trillion things.
Yeah. I think, like some people have been trying to connect themselves to the lineage of Cain based off of older traditions and what it says that the mark is. I've heard that, um, it most likely are either, Native Americans or Asiatic people, uh, some set of Asiatics. Um, and Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of on the east of Eden. Where exactly is, Nod?
I don't know if not actually
Where
has a
was Nod?
physical. I don't. Oh, you know what? Speaking of, I want us to do in the Discord. You know how you can watch a YouTube together. I want us
Mhm.
to. There's a video specifically about the Garden of Eden where they think it is, but I mean not like physically where it is, but like mythologically where it is, and all the things in the Bible that are related to that reference. That Eden was a garden that was on top of a mountain, and that it was in the east, and da 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 da. I don't know if Nod is. Well, let me say it this way. I don't think we found Nod. Yeah. You still here?
Am I breaking up?
Yeah, you broke up right there. Say that again.
Am I breaking up? Can y'all hear me?
If you would, I heard
Can y'all hear
that.
me?
I heard that. Yeah, you breaking up now though.
It's messing up again. Okay, hold on, y'all.
I heard you right then. I did hear you
Mm.
right then. Guys, make sure that you're sharing
And me
this.
trying to fix what happened last year, I messed it up.
It's okay. You guys, make sure you're sharing this and subscribing so that we can monetize, so that we can get a whole new setup for thinking, so that we won't have to keep doing it. We're gonna get it done, guys. It's gonna happen. We're about to be big. This is about to be really big. You know what it is that you know what it is right now that's making you break up? You know what it
What?
is? It's the
What?
enemy. It's the enemy. It's the enemy. So we just gonna
Oh my God. So have I been frozen like that the whole time?
you had your
Oh
thumb
my
up like
God.
that for the last 45 minutes.
45 minutes? This
Yes.
is so, oh my God. This sucks. It's the devil.
It's the enemy.
Oh my God.
It's the enemy.
Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna have to find something other than StreamYard. Like this sucks.
Yeah. We'll get it all worked out.
Yeah. Okay. So we were yeah. Okay. So back to he goes out and he finds his wife in the land of Nod. Um and give me just a second. I'm gonna have to edit the mess out of this one. So I said you've had your thumb raised for
Yeah. It
um
actually looks
and
there's this classic picture of Jesus with his thumb up like this. That this picture reminds me of. I'll find it. I'm gonna send you that picture in the Discord so you can see it. This is a picture of Jesus.
oh my God. Let's see. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch, and he builded a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. So okay, so can we go back for just a second?
Mhm.
Um, so Enoch came from Cain, right?
I think so.
Enoch, huh?
I said I think so.
Yeah. So, but Enoch is like the first Adam, I mean, the second Adam, right? So when we go back to the Israelites are trying to establish themselves as Abel, as the nothingness that disappears. That's where I'm a little bit confused because here you have this line that comes from out of you know you have Enoch who ends up bearing the line that leads to Noah and Seth and them. So how are they?
I don't think this is the same Enoch. And when we'll read the lineage later, there's more than one Enoch. Noah's from the line of Seth, not the line of Cain.
No, I know he's from the line of Noah's from the line of Seth, right? But that leads to Cain's
That Enoch is from the
uh,
line of that Enoch is from the line of Seth.
the Enosh.
The Enoch that we're talking about is from the line of Seth.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's another kid named Enoch right here.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
different Enoch.
And so okay, and so Enoch and Enoch just means African chief, right? It's like it's not a name, it's a title.
I've never heard that, but I can rock that. That makes sense.
Yeah,
I can
like
see that.
Abimelech. Abimelech is like it just
Yeah,
means
that just
king.
means King Father.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um okay. So and Cain knew his wife and she conceived and bare Enoch and he built a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. And unto Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begat Mehujael, and Mehujael begat Methusael, and Methusael
Methuselah.
begat
Yeah.
begat Lamech, and
Mhm.
Lamech took unto him two wives. The name of the one Ada, and the name of the other Zillah. And Ada bare Jabal, and he was the father of such as dwell in tents, and of such as have cattle. And his brother's name was Jubal, and he was the father of all such as handle the harp and organ. And Zillah, she also bare Tubal Cain, an instructor of every artificial in brass of iron, and the sisters of Tubal Cain was Naamah. And Lamech said unto his wives Ada and Zillah, hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech, hearken unto my speech, for I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my hurt. So Lamech has now committed murder.
Mhm.
Who did he kill?
Have no clue. It doesn't say we did.
It doesn't say anywhere else in the text either, right?
No,
But
not that
here
I
we
can
have the
recall.
second murder.
Yeah. Well,
And
not
it
that I
comes
can
from the
recall.
line of Tubal-Cain.
Yeah,
Uh, I mean, from the line of Cain.
yeah,
Okay. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 in sevenfold. So here, Lamech kills someone. He is protected 70 times 70,
yeah,
where Cain was protected sevenfold for committing murder.
yeah,
Back to the sin, right? Back
yeah,
to God being so pissed about sin. Um, and the punishment not fitting the crime. Instead, you are protected for killing your brother.
yeah.
You are avenged for killing your brother. And if somebody tries to uh, take vengeance out on you for taking the life of another, then God's going to protect you 70 times 7.
Yep. This later on, you're going to hear Paul say something like, hey, where sin abounds, grace even more abounds.
Yeah, this is why I say Christianity has no accountability, right? And they can't, like, this whole you're saved by grace, we all fall short for the glory of God. Like, there's no accountability in it. And last night when we were talking on live and asked, I forgot who asked the question. I think it might have been you. Asked the question about a killer going to heaven, um if
Yeah,
they just repent.
yes.
Yeah.
And you notice how that question kind of stumped them, right? Because on the one
Mhm.
hand, they wanted to say, no, that person's not going to heaven. It's a condition of the heart, and we ended up coming to we don't know who's gonna make it to heaven and hell. Remember how I got that? Right.
Yeah.
But on the one hand, you preach to me, man, you can be forgiven for anything. On the other hand, if I hit you with the logical end of that, then it's like, oh, we don't really know. But then if you don't know who's going to heaven and hell, then you don't have that hope that you were trying to give me. That was the whole point in this, was giving me the hope. But just like these stories, these ideas are disjointed. They don't have to go together. They don't have to go together. It's just I need to say this right now to get this point across, and I need to say this right now to get this point across. This is not
Yeah.
some congruent. This plus this equals this.
Yeah, but I think it is interesting that Cain's protection is in the same story,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the if one wanted to track the logic, it tracks because it's in the same story, and you see the God protecting anyone that wants to take vengeance out on anybody that kills their brother.
Also, do you notice that? Excuse me. Do you notice that in this lineage, you get to these people who now have they dwell in tents. They are like cultivating the animals in one place. They're making instruments. They're making metallurgy. So this like civilization is building around these folk, right? Like all the things that make a city great, all the things that make a civilization pop, right?
Mhm.
It's starting to build around these folk. And keep in mind, I'm telling you that the Israelites use this as kind of they never liked city folk, right? Notice that all their enemies was like Egypt, Babylon, any great dynasty that was going on, any big city folk, they ain't like them folk. They thought that God can't be over there with y'all. Y'all doing too much. Life should be simple. Life should be really simple, right? And but if I
Mhm.
mean, time does what time does. So think about like how the Amish live, right? Now the Amish have some technology, but they just decided that this is the perfect amount of technology to have. Like we should never get past this technology. This is how life is supposed to be, right? And so they look at us with cell phones like, oh, look at them over there. They just that's the devil using them over there. The devil is in. You see what I'm saying? The same idea is being
Yeah.
picked up here.
Hmm. Which is interesting because they considered um, the Cushites to be sorcerers, of metal workers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Which makes me think that Tubal Cain is what they were calling them, right? Uh the devil, right?
That's
And why in Hebrew Ra means evil,
mm-hmm.
which is
Right.
interesting because they put it in their name is Ra El.
Yeah, yeah. The another weird thing there is even to this day, like right now, which is why I had to add a new word to my list of no words. We still have this like, oh no, science, that's the devil. Oh no, we can't, we're not supposed to know that. That's witchcraft and sorts of, right? Like there's this kind of anti progress thing that happens. Like, no. This got to work like this because, I mean, you've seen people literally get up on stage and tell us that that the sun revolves around the earth, for crying out loud, right? Like,
Yeah.
but it's the same kind of idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And then and I think too, I think it's important to mention that this is the time Tubal Cain existed during the Bronze Age and the Iron Age, like from 3300 to 1200 BCE, and then around 1200 BCE is where you see the Israelites start to show up on the scene.
Yep.
Yeah, form as a people. So before that, it was Tubal Cain. Then you have God choosing the Israelites as His chosen people.
Yes.
I think that's really important to note as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and for again, Babylon. Whenever Babylon started to make their little work, the Tower of Babel, God got to destroy that because them the evil people, right? And God is putting up with them because they're descendants of Cain. And if you can't get rid of them, because if we get rid of them, then then it will be avenged 7 times. And these are apologetic. Remember, kind of like last night. And I'm so glad we had that conversation last night. Kind of like last night when every time I asked, well, why can't or if you ask, well, why can't God kill the devil? Or why can't you just heal people? Or why can't Cause see if we did that, it'll really be worse. Cause okay, all right. Instead of okay, guys, this is stupid. This is fucking dumb, right? Like this is dumb. But instead of just confessing, I don't know, or this power is just more powerful than us if we stick it in the belief, or it just doesn't work, or whatever. Oh no, cause see, if we go ahead, if it'll be worse if it wasn't no devil. It was if it wasn't no free will to fuck up everything in the world, then it'll be a worse world because it wouldn't be no crime in it. What?
I think it's also like just sitting here and looking at the text. Lamech says, "I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my hurt." So actually, Lamech killed two people, right?
Well, no. Normally, when you hear stuff like that, it's a certain term for it, but it's basically I'm trying to emphasize. I'm telling the story again. It's kind of like the same thing that what Matthew mistranslated that he came on a foal and the colt of a donkey.
The parallelism.
Yeah, the parallelism. Yeah, so he
Mhm.
just saying it's like he's talking about one man. He's just doing a parallelism.
Okay.
Yeah.
If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70fold. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son, and called his name Seth. For God said, She hath appointed me another seed. For God, said she, hath appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. The instead of Abel, again,
Now that is the switch up. Now that's a switch up
why do you say it's a switch up?
because because read it again. Read it one more time. She has
Right.
appointed me another man,
Another seed
another seed. Yeah.
instead of Abel, whom Cain slew.
Okay. Keep in mind, Abel wasn't even that important,
Right.
right? Okay. Cain is now kicked out of the site, right?
Hmm.
So now, if you'll notice, when we start counting lineages again, instead of counting lineage through Cain, I mean, we get Cain's lineage right there. But after that, we don't really hear much about Cain's lineage, not for real. We start tracking the lineage of Adam through Seth,
Hmm.
right? To be a substitute for Abel instead of a substitute for Cain.
Hmm.
Because, how am I saying this? In the tradition, the bloodline is tracked through firstborns, right? That's your blessed seeds, your firstborn seed, which is where you get Ishmael and Isaac and da da da. Right, firstborn, so important, right? But instead of there being a substitution for Cain, who is now kicked out of the presence of God, we're gonna. Oh, well, you'll see. Let's just keep it. I'll show what I mean. I think in the next 2-3 verses.
Because Cain is not. dead though, right?
He's
Like
not dead. He's not dead. And
right.
he having children. And he having children. Lots of kids, right?
Right. So the
That,
substitution, so wouldn't the substitution be for the one that died since Cain isn't dead?
I don't mean substitution as in like physical substitution in this point. I mean, watch how we count the lineage of Adam from here on out. We count the lineage of Adam not through his firstborn son, but through his thirdborn son. Not even his second,
Right.
through his
Mhm.
third.
Yeah, because Cain was basically Cain had a spiritual death. Um in that was a joke. But and then you see another Enoch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So well Enosh and not Enoch. So and to Seth, to him also there was born a son, and he called his name Enosh. Then began men to call upon the name of the Lord. So from through Seth, right, through the substitution, here you see the first time men are created that start to call on the name of Yahweh.
Now watch this. When you get over the Exodus, Yahweh gonna tell Moses, I didn't tell nobody my name. I'm telling you my name. But clearly, right here, right here, it said men start calling in the name of Yahweh right here,
Right. Hmm.
right? But if you keep reading, Moses gonna specifically say, "Unto your fathers, I was known as El Shaddai," or something else, right? But my name is Yahweh, as if he was just introducing this right here. I mean, in Exodus. But as you can see, right here, people start calling upon the name of Yahweh,
Hmm.
or at
I,
least
I
in this
Is
verse.
it because it's like the B portion of it, is it also the introduction of God? They say God didn't choose a people until he chose Israel, but I think that this is also a declaration of the God choosing the line of Seth.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. Right, establishing his name in this Seth lineage, right? That that it ain't Cain's lineage, and of course Abel had no kids, but he's establishing his lineage through Seth. But
Yeah.
just when we get to Exodus, I want you to remember that he said right here that this is when people start calling on the name of Yahweh.
Hmm.
But he gonna straight up tell Moses, I never told nobody my name, or by my name I was not known. I think is how he says it. By my name Yahweh I was not known, but
What
clearly he was.
right. Well, okay, so if we notice like all the way like in actually in Genesis 2 and Genesis 3 he's known as Jehovah Elohim, and then
Mm-hmm.
here it switches to Lord, which is just Yahweh.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the name is switching from
Uh,
Jehovah Elohim.
yeah, I won't say switching. Keep in mind that at any given time, they was using lots of names. They were using Yahweh Shabbat, Yahweh Eloheinu, or Yahweh Eloheni, I should say. Yahweh Eloheni. They were using all different kinds of names. Some people were still using El Shaddai. Some people were still using El Elyon. They were using all kinds of names, right? In this in this redaction later on, again, it gets sloppy, right? So some people trying to say, "Oh no, man, we've been calling on the name of Yahweh since Seth." Some people trying to say, "No, no, no, that's the name that God gave to Moses, right? This is what gives Moses the authority to say the things that he's saying, right? Oh no, man, it's always been Yahweh since the beginning of time. Kind of like when you read the Gospels, and Mark's version of the Gospel is very adoptionist. That Jesus became the Son of God at the baptism. Bart Ehrman does a great teaching about that. That Jesus became the Son. He was adopted as the Son of God at the baptism in Mark. In John, it was before the beginning of time. He was already God from the right. Like the same kind of ideas happening, or you'll see it kind of unfold here.
Yeah. And so I did see, in studying the uh, um, Akhenaten, right? Akhenaten called this god Aten, whose name was Asher at first, from his people, right? That came down from the Hurrian people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, because he was half Hurrian because of his mother, Queen Tai.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so when they what do you call it? When they have a inducted, initiated. Couldn't think of the freaking word. When they initiated Akhenaten into the cult of Asher, and then his name changed to Aten when Akhenaten took him into Egypt, and then um, Akhenaten when he introduced Aten to his followers, which were men from um, Geshen is what is called? Is it Geshen?
I do not know
Um,
the name. Goshen?
Goshen, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so in the men of Goshen, they knew Asher from their ancestors, but they called them Jehovah, and so they came together and decided instead of um, Akhenaten didn't want to stop calling the god Aten. They didn't want to stop identifying the god as Jehovah, and so together they decided to call it Adonai.
Okay. The Lord.
hmm And
Mm-hmm.
so I think like this right here, the Lord, the Adonai. So we go from Genesis 2, Genesis 3, you see Jehovah Elohim, right? And then now at the end of Genesis 4, we see this declaration of um then began men to call upon the name of the Lord, become Adonai,
Adonai. Yeah.
Adonai.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, and then so what is the when we talk about my brother's keeper, how do you think that this affects Christians, like reading and being taught about the story of Cain and Abel? What implications do you think, or ramifications do you think it has on the personality or belief systems of humans today, and how we feel like we either are or not responsible for our brothers?
Um, you know what's crazy? In all my years of being around church and in churches, people didn't really talk much about this story, except for to say that Cain slew Abel, right? And they try to teach you that to not to sin, right? But I don't think people really think about that response much. Basically, the question is, hey, where's your brother? I don't know. What am I, a babysitter? What am I, like? I'm supposed to be watching over him or something, right? Like I don't really care about I don't know where he is, right? And this idea of that disconnect, I'm not sure people really think much about it, or at least I
Well,
hadn't really
not
heard.
that they think about it. They don't think about a lot. They're
Yeah,
not. They don't allow themselves to think. They're not. They think that thinking is taking away power from God.
that's crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Seriously, they do. Like when you have preachers or missionaries, or I don't know what you call them, evangelists, saying that you can't think without the Spirit. Um, they don't allow themselves to think unless it's God's thinking.
Right.
And I think like we can, I don't know, like if you've ever just been around a person, like you hung out with a person a lot, maybe you've dated somebody for a long time, and then you realize that you're taking on their personality traits. But I mean, like over time, you're taking on, their personality traits, some of their belief systems, but you don't realize it. But other people around you are like, you're changing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So,
Mm-hmm.
I think like when we see the lack of empathy, um, for humanity in the conversations that we have with several Christians, not all Christians, but quite a few number of them.
Yeah.
For example, in the live that we had last night, where I'm constantly asking, well, what about the children in Congo? What about the children in Congo? What about the children in Congo? It- there was no, it was like really hard. It's like we're talking about children mining in mines and dying. And your answer is, um, well, he's there. And when I ask, well, they're doing what? He's just there. Like, is he pointing out the gold to them? Is he saying there goes some gold over there? Like, what is he doing?
I mean,
Right.
I sang a song about this one time, and it's a real simple hymn that says, "Because fuck 'em, that's why." When I ask why babies die, when I ask why kid gets cancer, or why their mothers have to cry, when I ask why there's a hell where all the good gays go to fry, why won't Jesus end the war in Palestine? Because fuck 'em, that's why. That's why. Right? Ultimately, it's just fuck 'em. Right? The
religion is a myopic. It's a very myopic view of the world. It's about me, right? God saved me. That's what's important. I'm not because I'm not. I'm saying that God is everywhere, da, 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 but at the same time, none of that really matters. I'm just saying that for that argument at that time
Yeah,
was
it tracks with Cain and Abel, right? Am I my where's your brother? Am I my brother's keeper? You didn't protect him,
right. Well,
right?
I got
Like
to do it.
yeah, right? And then did Cain like really get in trouble? Did Cain really learn a lesson to not kill again? No, because his lineage killed, right? Cain didn't go and start teaching his sons not to kill.
Yeah, yeah. And they
No
knew that
no
if anybody
accountability.
came back against them, they was gonna get it worse. Right.
Yeah, they were protected for their behavior, right?
Yeah,
So that it kind of tracks with the the lack of empathy for humanity. The expectation is switched. Like you're gonna get it if you don't believe in the God, but if you do something to harm people, then you're gonna get it when the world ends. There's no accountability whatsoever for humans um to see the humanness in other humans.
yeah. That's what I was trying to tell Ramon. That's what I was telling Leslie. I was like, bro, if you're saying that all I got to do is just repent, then and I'm gonna get the bad people are gonna get their comeuppance at the end. Well, technically, no, they won't, right? Because all they got to do is repent. And now all of a sudden, I got a slave and a slave master sitting at the same eternal glory. He was like, "But I'll just be so happy to be there." Shut up. Shut up. I'll be so happy to be there. I wouldn't care. But come on, man. Like, then what benefit does it do me to do you good? Right?
Hmm.
what benefit does it do me to be kind to you? If I can do you all kinds of dirty and then repent and then we gonna get the same heaven. Ain't no VIP section. They ain't bringing bottles to your table. Right? Like we're gonna get the same heaven. So it don't really benefit me to do nothing good because all I gotta do is just get into heaven. This life ain't important. Well, if it ain't important, then why try to do good in it? And the crazy part is, that's what I had a conversation with another guy earlier in the week, and he basically was saying that atheism is nihilism, and I was like, bro, I don't think you understand. Like your view of the world is much more nihilistic than mine. I think that things matter here on Earth. You think that nothing matters here. All of this is inconsequential. All that matters is the afterlife. Right. Anyway, yeah. But yeah, I feel you saying with that.
Ethereal said, well, there are VIP crowns according to Paul.
Oh, well, I mean, I guess you could get a different hat, but I do they have bottles though? The bottle girls coming.
The what girl?
The bottle girls, they come and bring with the
Oh.
sparkles.
I think somebody on live said they had talked to a woman who said that she would not serve God if she didn't get a crown in heaven.
Oh yeah, somebody did say that. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you don't want to be up there without a crown on because everybody gonna be like, look at this vagabond, broke bitch.
Yeah.
You don't the brokey in heaven. You don't want that.
But I think that's where like this individualistic God is there for me, and that's all that matters. It doesn't matter what the world looks like.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
he's there for me,
yeah,
and that's
yeah.
all that matters.
That's yeah, yeah, yeah. Did we get through that? How much
Yep.
love we got in this chapter?
Yep. We're done.
All right. Shoot,
Yeah.
man. I've enjoyed this. I got to get back on the road to get back up to LA. I've enjoyed this though. This was a good time.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much. I'll get it edited down and see what we can salvage
I
from
know,
this.
right? But it was really good. Hopefully we can save a lot of it. It was good. I enjoyed this.
Same here. Thank y'all so much for those of you that showed up today. Make sure that you share the podcast. Thank y'all for helping us reach our subscriber goal, and we will see y'all next week.
All right.
All right.